Alright, so I tested my designs, and I'm just going to show this one. This one, the space is too wide between the tabs, and also the tabs are too tall. It makes it too hard to get the button off of the loom. So there's some testing that I went through. The PLA is a little flexible if you print it thin. This is about 1 millimeter, I think. And so it does help if it's a little flexible to pop your button off of the loom. So I've tested these, and the spacing between is just right. And on this one also, now the printer messed up this one, but I'm going to reprint it. So I'm going to show on this one here. Okay, get some masking tape, some tape handy, and a couple of tapestry needles. I don't know what size these are. And I'm going to play with this loom first, and I've already got a piece of tape on the back. I'm going to just keep that handy. So you pass your thread through whatever you're using. This is a number 10 crochet thread, and so I put a little mark on what I'm calling my number 1 tab, or the 12 o'clock. So you never want to pass all the way across the back of your loom like that, because you'd never get your button off of there. So we're going to wrap around the tabs like that. They're all going to have a little loop across the back like that. Alright, so every time you cross to the other side, you don't wrap the tab that's directly across. You want to wrap the tab, come across the center, always cross through the center, and wrap the tab that's next. And I'm wrapping always in clockwise, but if you want to think of this, on the top of the loom it's going to be left to right, and then when I cross over it's going to be right to left at the bottom. Cross across the center and go left to right, cross across the center and go right to left. And I'll keep doing that. Now at first we're skipping because of the way this crosses over. I always try to orient myself across the center, and then I wrap. And so we're going to keep wrapping till every tab has a loop across the back, and there'll also be 2 threads in between each of these little gaps, or these little slots. Okay, so I'm crossing across the center, right to left, cross across the center, left to right. And so now I'm doubling up with the threads in between the slits. I don't know what to call it. And you can turn your loom as you go. My thread's hanging up. I think I'm finished. So I'm just going to make sure that I have 2 threads in each of these little gaps. And then I'm also going to make sure I didn't mess up and cross across the back, because if I'm daydreaming, I have done that before and got halfway through the button and realized that I had crossed around. So now that I've got this wrapped, I'm just going to hold it in place. You can put a quilter's clip or something like that. You can put anything like that, but you can't let it go. You can do that while you measure your thread out. So I don't like to work with too much thread, so maybe about a yard and a half to begin with. Now I've found on this particular loom, if I want to weave all the way to the end of it to make a button, I'll need about 3 yards. From after you wrap the loom, you'll probably need about 3 yards, but that's a lot of thread to work with, so I don't do that. It starts getting tangled and twisted and all of that. So on the smaller one, I found that once you've got the wrapping done, you'll need about 2 yards on this one. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and thread one of these needles. I actually like using the the loom I showed in the previous video with the pins, but this is more portable, and you don't have to stop and set up pins and all that kind of stuff. So I like using this one too. Alright, so I can take my clip off and I just figure out where this thread wants to go. It doesn't want to go there. This is where it wants to go. So I'll remember where I started, to the left of my little mark. And I want to take this thread and I'm going to pass from right to left, because I'm right-handed. I'm going to pass under that first spoke. So every slot with the threads coming out of it is a spoke. From the center out is a spoke, and a spoke contains 2 threads. So I'm going under both of those threads. So when I say going under a spoke, it's under both of the threads. So I'm already getting a little tangled here. So wherever, from now on, once we wrap that first spoke, from now on, wherever this thread is coming out, we're going to go to the right of that V, and we're going to go under both of those spokes from right to left. So this is being straddled. I don't know what the stitch is called, if it even has a name. So now I've pulled that knot up tight. Now when you're wrapping your loom to begin with, don't do it too tight. But when you're doing the knots, you want them pulled down tight toward the center. Okay, so now my thread is coming out between here, so I'm going to go under those 2 spokes and pull my thread through. So just look and see where it's coming out and go under those 2 spokes. Oops, my camera drifted away. So that's all you do, is you just keep going around and around and around. So I'm going to keep going, and when I start to run out of thread, I'll show you what I do to add new thread on. Now you can go watch Gina B. Silkworks, and then on my pen loom I do it a little bit differently. So I've only been doing these Yorkshire buttons for about a week or so, but I've kind of come up with my own techniques on what makes it easy for me. So alright, and the other point I want to make is, if you're using a variegated yarn or thread, it really comes out pretty and you'll get these little stripes going. But when you have the size of a loom, on this one I started with an 1.5 inch circle in the middle, so my button is only going to end up about 3/4 inches. It's only going to be half. So if I'm going to run out of thread, I want to run out of thread in the first, or after I've gone through at least half of the button. So that's why I started with about a yard and a half of thread, because when you're adding on threads it doesn't really show, but if it does, I want the join to be on the back of my button. So when you're done, you're going to gather up that button. So anything beyond this point is going to be on the bottom of the button, unless you're making a flower. Your thread is going to constantly be getting twisted like this, so you can just dangle the loom, see if I can get it in the video, until it stops spinning. Just hang it down every now and then and it'll take the twist out. Okay, my thread's getting a little short to deal with, and so I've probably made it at least to the front of the button. You see it's gathered across the back, so I've probably made it to the front. So anything I do right now is probably not going to show. So what I do is I take, this is what I've tried last time and it worked pretty well. I take this thread that's coming out from between here and I wrap that spoke again, and I go down behind the button just to get the thread out of my way. And I pull that down tight. But you'll have to remember where you left off, and sometimes you can kind of tug on this. If you lay this down, you forgot where you came out, you can kind of pull it out and see where that's at. But I know I'm to the right of this little spoke here. So I'm going to go ahead and take my needle out. I don't need to cut the thread at this point. And then I'm going to measure out about a yard to try to finish off this button, and because it usually takes about 3 yards to finish the button, so I think I did about 1.5 yards last time. So I'm going to go ahead and thread the new cut supply, and I'm going to, the last time this thread went through, it went through under these 2 spokes, so I want to go across, I want to go through the same path that the last one went. So I'm going to just pull up enough of a tail that I can thread onto my second needle, and I don't want this flopping around in my way, so I'm going to bring it to the back of the button. Just kind of thread it down, and I can also tie a knot there if I want to, and I can even go down another one if I think I need more security, but I'm just going to go straight down. So again, all this is going to be on the back of the button, and this needle's curved, so it's giving me a little trouble. So just getting that thread out of the way. So these can both be cut at this point, and they're going to be laying on the back of the button. Sometimes you can incorporate them into a spoke and wind it around, but the last one I didn't do that way, and I was fine. So now they're secured at the back of the button, those 2 little threads. You'll see them later when we take the button off of the loom, and now I can just continue on where I left off. And I really hope I'm staying in the video, because my camera keeps swiveling on me, and then when I'm zoomed in I just move off the camera without knowing. So I'm just going to continue on until I'm finished with the button, so I'll be right back. So you just keep going until it gets too tight for you to do any more stitches around the loom, to where you can't get your needle in there anymore. Okay, my thread's getting really short, so I should have cut a little bit longer, because I can go a little farther. I can still get my needle under there, but I'm going to go ahead and quit now. So what you do is you just start popping these loops off, and if they're tight, you can get a needle in there, just a smaller needle, and just kind of start pulling them off. Because the PLA plastic is flexible a little bit, and it helps to get these off. So the other thing you can do is from the front, you can kind of scooch your needle underneath and kind of pull those spokes off. I just find it easier from the back, and it does get easier once you get them started. They start getting looser. Alright, so we'll just take our tape off, and there you go. And you can see the loops that we had pulled through to the back, so you can pull the little fuzzies through. You can put freight check on there if you're worried about it. And so with the remaining thread, you're going to have to leave enough of this to gather with, or you'll have to add a thread on. So I'm just going to see where I left off here and pull that knot down. Pull that tight. Alright, so I'm going to start where this one's coming out. I'm going to go through the back of each of these loops to gather, and I just do 2 or 3 at a time. Until I get back to the beginning. I think I've made it back. You can count if you lose your place, and then you just start gathering it up. So either side can be your right side, but if you want this to be the right side of the button, you're going to have to threads to the other side. The interest is always those ridges, and that's the classic. So I'm going to get a little button form that I had 3D printed to put in the middle of there. You can stuff this if you want a big fat button. I've done that before, but they're really rounded, and they would work good on a garment like a crocheted or knitted sweater where you need a really bulky button, but I'm using these for embellishments. So I 3D printed my own button forms. You can use just cheap buttons, little flat buttons to put inside of there, whatever you want to do, or stuff it like I said. So if I would have woven all the way to the end, this wouldn't be so open like this, but it's all on the back side of the button, so it doesn't matter. So I'm just going to kind of run it through a little bit more until I can tighten that up. Let's see if I'm staying on the camera. And then I'm going to just tie a little knot around one of these little spokes. Now, let's see if I have enough thread to show you the next thing. If not, I'll have to give you the link to Gina B. Silkworks, where she shows how to put a button shank on the back. I'm going to switch to some glasses here that I can see better. So on the back of this one, I did a little button shank. If you wanted to sew this onto a garment, a knitted sweater or something like that. But I don't usually do that because I'm using my buttons for embellishment. But let's see if I can do it with this short of a piece of thread. So I've anchored on one side, so go straight across to the other side of the center and grab a couple of those threads, and then come back across to where this one comes out and anchor that on that side. So what you have is two threads going across. So that's going to be your button shank. Stay in the camera, Geraldine. So what I'm going to do now is a buttonhole stitch. I hope I have enough thread. You go under both threads, and before you pull it tight, you come back through that loop. Keep my hand out of the way. You go under the two threads, and then before you pull it tight, come back through the loop. And you just do that. You know, it doesn't take many stitches to get across to the other side if I have enough thread. Getting pretty short here. And then when you've finished with your shank, you just tie a knot on this end a couple of times just to secure it, and then just pull your thread underneath just to hide the tail. Cut that off. So you've got a little shank to sew it onto something. That's all there is to it.